Good morning, students. Hope you all are completing your classwork and homework on time. And I also assume that you all are going through your readers and your classwork. So let's continue the lesson today from where we stopped. Before we start today's session, let me brief you what I will be covering today. We will do a recap of what we learned in the previous class. Then we will continue the lesson, the best advice I ever had. We will also look into some vocabulary and then of course grammar, a small chapter which is adverbs. We will summarize all what we have learned. Then I will ask you a few questions which you will have to type the answers and send it to me, or you can write down the answer and send it to me. Last comes your assignment, which is your classwork and homework. Let's recap what we learned in the previous session. In the previous session, we started off with the lesson, The Best Advice I Ever Had, written by Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit. And we also had a glimpse of who Vijayalakshmi Pandit was. And in this particular lesson, we saw that Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit refers to some of the hard and humiliating situation she went through in her life when she lost her husband. We also looked into some vocabulary and we also learned what is prefix and suffix. Isn't it, children? So let's continue the lesson. Children, turn to page number 2 in your readers. We will do the last line on page 2 and then continue on page 3. For those of you who do not have your readers, children, don't worry. What is in page 3 is being put up in this particular slide. All what you have to do is listen carefully and toss your fingers through while I'm reading. Alright, so let's start. I remained silent and he continued. You are going to a new country because you are unhappy and want to escape. Can you escape from yourself? Will you find happiness outside when there is bitterness in your heart? Think it over. Be a little humble. You have lost a loved one. That is sorrow enough. Must you inflict further injury on yourself because you lack courage to cleanse your own heart? His words would not leave me. They gave me no peace. After some days of severe struggle with myself, I finally telephoned my brother-in-law. I would like to see you and the family, I said before leaving. Now children, we know that Gandhiji advised Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit, and what she said, even to please him, she will not go and tell them goodbye before she leaves for America. She was silent and Gandhiji continued telling her she's trying to run away from problem. That's why she's going to a new country. He asked her how long she can escape and also said she will not find happiness unless she removes the anger out of her. He asked her to think about it. He also advised her to be humble and not to harm herself more because of her unhappiness. And he also did tell her that she does not have the courage to thoroughly clean her own heart. Now, this advice of Gandhiji gradually brought a change in her life. She kept thinking about it. And you know what she did finally? She called up her brother-in-law and told him she wants to see him and the family before leaving for America. Children, escape means to run away. Escape, to run away. Bitterness means feeling of anger or unhappiness. Bitterness is feeling of anger or unhappiness. Inflict is to harm. Inflict is to harm. Cleanse means thoroughly clean. Cleanse means thoroughly clean. And brother-in-law is husband's brother. Brother-in-law is husband's brother. Let's continue. I hadn't been with them 5 minutes before I sensed that my visit had brought a feeling of relief to everyone. I told them of my plans and asked for their good wishes before starting on this stage of my life. The effect on me was miraculous. I felt as if a great burden was being lifted and I was free to be myself. This small gesture was the beginning of a significant change in me. A year and a half later, I was in New York as a leader of the Indian delegation to the United Nations. Important to us was India's complaint regarding the treatment of people of Indian origin in South Africa. Harsh things were said by both sides. I resented the manner in which my opponents made personal attacks harmful to India's prestige and to mine. I struck back with the same sharp weapon. So what happened? She went and saw her family and she experienced a sort of relaxation after talking to them. And she told them her plans and also asked them for their good wishes. She felt as if a heavy load was kept down. And this attitude was the beginning of a major change in Mrs. Vijayalakshmi's behavior. And when she was in New York as the leader of Indian delegation to the United Nations, India complained about the treatment of people of Indian origin in South Africa. They were ill-treated and harsh things were exchanged, and even what happened? Even they spoke bad about her and India's prestige as well. And what she did? She gave them back in the same way they spoke. Now, sensed means feel something or experience. Feel or experience something. Relief is relaxed or happy. Relief is relaxed or happy. Burden, something that is carried. Burden, something that is carried. And miraculous means unusual or unexpected. Miraculous is unusual or unexpected. And gesture. Gesture is the attitude. Significant, major. Significant, a major change. And resented means feel bitterness. Resented means feel bitterness. And delegation means is a large group of people who are sent to have talks with other people on behalf of a larger group of people. Once again, please listen. Delegation is a group of people who are sent to have talks with other people on behalf of a larger group of people. So let's see what happens next. Then, after a distressing duel of words, I suddenly thought of Gandhiji. Would he approve? To him means were as important as the end. In the long run, perhaps more important. What if we succeed in getting our resolutions passed by the questionable tactics that injured our self-respect? Before going to bed that night, I resolved that come what might, no words of mine would be lightly used in the UN. From then on, I lifted the debate back to where it belonged, refusing to retaliate to personal attacks or to score a cheap point. Our opponents met us on the new level, and from then we argued the case on its merits. Now what happened? She gave back the same way those people spoke. But she applied the advice of Gandhiji when she involved in heated arguments. And soon she realized that the debate diverted from the original issue. And again she suddenly thought of Gandhiji. She realized that for Gandhiji, the means were as important as the end. And from then what she did? She refrained from personal attacks and concentrated on the original issue. And not only that, she forced the opponents to follow her. Thus, Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit lifted the debate to where it belonged. So instead of getting deviated, they would only talk to the point and back. So over here, distressing means sorrow or upsetting. Distressing means sorrow or upsetting. Resolved is firmly determined. Resolved, firmly determined. Retaliate, to hurt someone. Retaliate, to hurt someone. Merits, worthiness. Merits, worthiness. So students, I have read page number 3 till the 13th para, and I've also explained to you all. Hope you all have understood till here. Now what you'll have to do is, you will have to read what I taught today, and on page 3 you will underline about 15 new words and write it in your homework book. I repeat, read page number 3 and underline the new words in your reader and write it in your homework book. Clear, children? Let's look at some synonyms now. Escape, get away or run away. Escape, get away or run away. Bitterness, enmity, hatred. Bitterness, enmity, hatred. Humble, meek, respectful. Humble, meek, respectful. Burden, load or weight. Burden, load or weight. Significant, remarkable or outstanding. Significant, remarkable or outstanding. Let's move on to grammar now. A very small chapter which is adverbs. Now what is an adverb? An adverb is a word or set of words that modifies verbs, adjectives and other adverbs. It tells us when, where and how an action is performed. I repeat, an adverb is a word or a set of words that modifies verbs, adjectives and other adverbs. It tells us where, when and how an action is performed. And many adverbs end in ly. So don't think any word that is ending in ly is an adverb, children. Not all the adverbs end in ly, but many adverbs do end in ly. Let's look at these examples here. He runs quickly. Now, the adverb quickly modifies the verb runs. He runs very quickly. Here, the adverb very modifies the adverb quickly. Let's look at this example. He's an extremely quick runner. The adverb extremely modifies the adjective quick. Hope it's clear and easy to understand, children. On page 12, you have make new verbs with the following words, then use them in sentences of your own. So framing sentences, we will do it online. All right. Now, you will have to only make new verbs with the following words. All right. I've done the first 5 for you all. The rest, you will have to do it yourself in the reader. I repeat, the first 5 is done. The rest, you will have to do it in your reader. Bath, bathe. Courage, encourage. Force, enforce. Food, feed. Joy, enjoy. Hope it's clear. Let's summarize all what we have learned today. We continue the lesson on page 3. I read the lesson for you and explained it. And we also looked into a few word meanings, synonyms, and a small part in grammar, which is adverbs with examples. Isn't it? And now it's time for me to ask you all questions. You all have to pay attention to what has been asked. You can type your answers and send it to me, or you can write your answers and send it to me. Let's see who will get all the questions correct. And let me see how much you all have understood as well. Why was Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit in deep sorrow? Why was Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit in deep sorrow? And why did she call the law old-fashioned? Why did she call the law old-fashioned? What does decency mean? What does decency mean? What did she finally do after taking the advice of Mahatma Gandhi ji? What did she finally do after taking the advice of Mahatma Gandhi ji? What's the meaning of result? What's the meaning of result? And what does Indian delegation stand for? What does Indian delegation stand for? The last one, what is gesture? What is gesture? All the best, children, and I'm waiting for your answers. Before we wind up, let me tell you what you have to do for your homework. In your reader, on page 9, do V1 and V2. On page 10, do the A main. And on page 12, G2 and G3 you have to do. Now, G2, I have already shown you how to do the first 5. The rest of the words you will have to do, children. And see that you do this homework in the reader itself. For those of you who do not have your readers, don't worry. I will be sending the pic of all these pages in the group. Either take a printout or you can even write it down in your rough book, not the homework book, rough book. Very clear, children? Either you can take a printout and do it in the printout itself, or you can do it in your rough book. All right, very clear? Now, we come to the end of today's session. We will see you tomorrow online. Until then, this is Ma'am Anna Rajshekar signing off. Take care.